Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name's John Pitcher. I'm an applications engineer with A2K Technologies, and it's great to have you along today for today's webinar around the essential tools to design an effective factory. Just before we start, a couple of little factors about A2K. We've just had a rebrand and now are part of the VinZero group. So at A2K Technologies, we're a VinZero company. We foster innovation through our consulting and training in conjunction with the delivery of software and hardware solutions. Our highly knowledgeable and industry experienced staff from the architectural, engineering, construction, infrastructure, and manufacturing sectors enhance our clients' organizational capabilities by assisting in the delivery of project outcomes. We strive to give our clients a winning edge over their competitors. Our professional services and consulting divisions include highly skilled industry experienced technical consultants. Our operations, resources, and infrastructure equate to the highest level of support, which is backed up by strategic partnerships with many major software and hardware. With a large footprint throughout ANZ region, we have become a trusted technology advisor, offering our technical expertise, our commercial flexibility, and high levels of customer service and understanding. So yeah, welcome along today. As I said, my name is John Pitcher. It's great to have you with us today for today's webinar. Just a couple of things about me. I'm presently working with A2 Technologies as an applications engineer, mainly focused in the mechanical space. My background is in the manufacturing sector, having spent many years in the manufacturing, in CNC programming, hydraulics and pneumatics, machine design and manufacture, and a number of other smaller industries. For the past 15 years, though, I've been connected directly with the Autodesk line of products, and more recently, I've been doing a little bit of additive manufacturing or 3D printing, as many of you would know it. So welcome along. It's great to have you with us today, and hope you're all safe and well. So just a couple of things about what we hope to cover in today's webinar. First up, we're going to have a bit of an introduction to the factory design utilities and where that sits in the overall scheme of things with the Autodesk Product and Design Manufacturing Collection. And we'll be taking a look at some of those areas of the software solution that Autodesk offer in this particular space. We'll be looking at some of the challenges that are currently evident with any process change and the need for continuous improvement. Lean manufacturing has obviously given us some really good tools to help with manufacturing in a way in the 21st century, where we have many challenges and many other aspects of the types of things that we now confront when we go to develop, for instance, a new factory layout or whatever it might be. So we're going to have a bit of a look at that, and then we'll go into a bit of a demonstration, just a brief demonstration on the Autodesk factory design utilities within the Inventor software and some of the tools that are available to us in that regard. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. So there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. So feel free to jot down your questions as we go through the presentation today. And we'll have a Q&A via the chat system through the Zoom session, which hopefully everybody will be well aware of in regard to that. So if you're not aware of that, on the Zoom session, there is an option to chat, and there is questions and answers section as well in there. So when we talk about factory design and the Autodesk Product Design Manufacturing Collection, obviously most of you would be aware of the processes and some of the tools available with that. But Autodesk have got a large array of software that is available in the Product Design Manufacturing Collection. Most of us would be familiar with the likes of AutoCAD and Inventor and perhaps Fusion 360. Navisworks, maybe, if you're doing some clash detections and site layouts and things like that. Obviously, there's quite a few other tools within that software that many people are not familiar with. And one of those we hope to give you a bit of education on today is the factory design utilities. But also related to that are things like Recap. There's a bunch of other tools in the Inventor system that certainly help us with that. And obviously, this is all packaged together inside the PDM collection with a Vault data management system, which obviously is a very powerful tool for managing your data in a secure fashion. So today we'll be looking at some of the elements of these tools, and as I said, particularly what we commonly refer to as the factory design utility. It is an add-on to the Inventor base platform, and it includes some really powerful tools for us to work with factory layouts and work with some of those elements of design. So first up, very basically, how do we get hold of this tool? If you've got a product design manufacturing collection software from Autodesk, how do we get hold of the factory design utilities? Well, hopefully most of us would be aware of the Autodesk account system, and you're hopefully familiar with this this page here. But if you go to the product design manufacturing collection inside of your Autodesk account, the website for that one is just accounts.autodesk.com, and log in. And obviously when you enter that area, you'll be presented with an option to look at all your products and services as per the menu on the left there. If you select the product design manufacturing collection and select on the right there under the view items area, you'll find it will list all the tools and applications that are included in the product design manufacturing collection software. So under there, if when you go to that, you'll find, if you view the items, you'll find in there the factory design utilities, and that's the tool that we're particularly focusing on today. Obviously, we do many webinars on different aspects of this. We've done numerous webinars around the Inventor software and some of the other add-ons. We obviously do this for AutoCAD and Revit and a whole bunch of the Autodesk tools that are available to us inside of each of those softwares. So that we get to the software. I'd highly recommend you download this, even if it's not a tool that you use every day. It's certainly something that's worth exploring. There's a massive library in here of utilities, and we'll talk about those as we go through the tools this morning. So when we talk about factory design and working with production system and work cells and things like that, there's a whole bunch of items that come to the fore, and yeah, certainly being able to work with a system that that is integrated is a very smart way of operating, and reducing things like silos of information and getting the right information to the right stakeholder is quite critical. And this is really where the factory design utility comes to the fore, because it obviously integrates not only perhaps a 2D layout from an AutoCAD system, where we can use it as an underlay inside of Inventor to perhaps give us our factory layout as a perhaps a site layout or something like that. We've obviously got the option then to go and utilize that AutoCAD data inside of Inventor, and we'll look at this. We can link those files up a little later on in our demonstration. But there's many questions that arise when we start talking about factory design and factory layouts, and much of that obviously pertains to the likes of improving efficiencies and working with lean manufacturing systems to create the best possible outcome and to create the most efficient system that we can with regard to the factory system. So effectively, when we do this, as I've listed there on this particular slide, there's many things we need to consider about the way our factory is going to operate and the way that we're going to be able to interface and interact with with other stakeholders within our business situation. And look, when we do this, there's many unknowns. There's a lot of things that installation problems. We don't know if the system will function as it's desired. There's bottlenecks. There's many challenges that that we can run across in regard to working with the Inventor system. So this is where factory design utilities really is designed to fill the gap and to perhaps dispel some of those challenges that we might come across as we work through the process of where to lay out equipment within a certain factory, and how to get that into a system that is, as I mentioned before, available, an agile system that is able to be adopted and to be used a lean manufacturing type system. So there's many things that we need to address in regard to working with that. So again, as we said, there's lots of potential challenges when we lay out a factory with being able to ensure that items are produced on time and in the most appropriate fashion, and looking for positive outcomes and systems that are designed to be within budget, delivered on time, and being able to work with each of those elements. So that's where really the factory design utility is designed to fit. It's designed to help us to dispel some of those challenges of incorrect information that's being put through in some of those areas. So there can be a lot of negative outcomes, I suppose, when we talk about this, but designing work cells and factory layouts generally, a lot of those things can be dispelled by looking at and ascertaining how correctly we can use tools like the factory design utility to help us work within a system of managing a positive outcome when we build our factory and lay out our equipment within that particular factory. So there's a lot of items that, when we come to planning these objects and setting up conveyors and work cell type systems, how can we use that better, and how can we better communicate the information through the system to include details and data from various stakeholders within the organization, and make sure that we end up with an agile system that is productive. And like I said, I guess when we talk about lean manufacturing and a lot of continuous improvement type functionalities, there's a lot of items that are that need to be covered there in relation to the way that our factory is designed and developed. Now, within the system of the Autodesk factory layout system, we've got a number of different tools, and one of these is the process analysis tool, where we can set up some testing platforms and look at the way that our product is going to transition through a production environment, for instance, whether it needs to travel through certain quality check systems and numerous other systems, and ensuring, like we said before, that we don't end up with bottlenecks in our processes where we've got product waiting to be utilized or to before it moves on to another work cell or whatever that might be. So there's quite a lot of things to consider, and obviously we can run around a factory with a stopwatch and a notepad and do this the way it was done back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But now we've got some awesome utilities within the Autodesk software that allow us to do a lot of this in a simulated way and look at the way that the factory design utility is going to help us with that. So our CAD software, which has obviously allowed us to ascertain a lot of these items before we move through that process, can be dictated and reported on before we even start thinking about where machines and where different elements are going to be placed within that particular factory system. So we've got the option to include point clouds. So you can see an example here of a factory where maybe we've got some existing storage utilities in place, and we want to include that particular existing data into perhaps an upgrade to a factory or something of that nature. We can obviously work around using Recap and many of the other tools included in the Autodesk software suites to work with our factory layout. So there's quite a lot of different tools with regard to this, and we'll be touching on some of these as we move into our demonstration a little later on. But effectively, the concept with the factory design utility is that we can utilize the likes of an AutoCAD 2D design that we might have from a previous layout or something like that, or a previous system from a previous build or whatever that might be, in relation to the way that our software and our items are going to integrate within an upgrade or a new factory type system. So the benefit of this is that we can link that to our Inventor factory design utility and have that live link where we can keep many items within the system linked to the AutoCAD file. And obviously we can drive that link backwards and forwards from the AutoCAD software or from the likes of Inventor with our factory design utility, including things like robot arms and all those conveyor systems that might be able to be utilized or placed into a new factory layout based on perhaps shifting to another facility or including some of that existing equipment into an upgraded design or whatever it might be. So there's quite a number of different tools that we've got there to leverage this. Like we said, we can include point cloud data to be able to pick up an existing factory system or a layout of each of those items. We can do things walkthroughs. So obviously the Navisworks tool included with the product design manufacturing collection allows us to walk around our facility and do some virtual simulations of a production facility and see how we can actually utilize that. So we can detect areas of clash or areas where there's perhaps not enough room to get a piece of equipment through or a forklift access prior to even starting our layout of our particular factory. So we've got quite a number of tools there for working with that. A couple of other things with regard to this is obviously HVAC and the physical aspects of the facility. So if we're putting a robot arm in a particular area, we obviously don't want it to be too close to the structure of our building, or we need access to that by working through some of those other tools and being able to flag potential issues prior to them even arising. So being able to do clash detections and a number of those other elements with regard to laying out our factory prior to even looking at that. And obviously work through a bunch of different tools about how that might come about. So we can obviously create in Navisworks, which is again part of that, a site process and look at, like I said earlier, clash detections and some of those other areas of how we're going to utilize our production facility to do that. So things like bill of materials and bill of equipments and all those sorts of elements that are related to factory design are all included within the factory design utility. So there's a lot of other tools there included in that, and being able to also link this to BIM functionality and utilizing aspects of Revit models within your factory as well might be also a valuable item if you're integrating or discussing this particular system with a stakeholder that is already designing the facility in Revit software. We can obviously integrate now and work with a BIM ecosystem that's going to give us that type of functionality. Okay, what I'd like to do now is just for a few minutes jump into Inventor Software and take you through a quick rundown, just a brief rundown of some of the tools and options that are available to us inside of the factory design utility. So when we start up our Inventor, and most of you would be, or perhaps some of you would be familiar with the Inventor interface already, when we start or when we install the factory design utility within our Inventor software, we end up with another menu system and another template. So when we open a new file inside of our Inventor software, we end up with a new template called our standard factory layout. Now, what that template includes is a bunch of other tools and some of those other elements that we can utilize to work within the Inventor system. Now, obviously, the tool is designed to integrate with AutoCAD, so we can add a DWG underlay here if we'd like to, and utilize a DWG file, like I said, if from perhaps a previous work area or a layout that might be included with the facility that you're adding your factory design to. So the concept with this is we've got still our model browser. We have another browser called the asset browser. Now this is quite a critical part of the Inventor factory design utility because it includes, first up, a whole bunch of existing assets that are all based in cloud libraries that we can download and utilize. And I'll go and bring some of these in a moment. But just a few other things with regard to some of the other tools that are available. We've got this palettes area where, like I said, we can turn our asset browser on and off. Obviously, we've still got our layout browser, and we've got a couple of other tools here as well. Now, one of the other items that was mentioned there inside of the in our earlier presentation was being able to do some process analysis and work with various aspects of that. But let's just briefly take a look at inserting and utilizing some of these tools within our factory design utility. So when you install the factory design utility, it will give you the option to work with a bunch of these other items. We do have a number of other browsers as well that we can look at inside of our standard layout. But as I mentioned, the factory design utility does include quite an exhaustive library of componentry that we can, first up, either download to become local elements that we can include in our system. And if we dig down a little in here, you'll find that under the architectural area, we can go into furniture, for instance, and all of these items here are simple factory elements that we can just double click on to place a chair, for instance, into our factory layout. So there's a lot of items that are available to us just to simply bring into our factory layout from these assets. So yeah, this, as you can hear, we've got all sorts of items that we could include if we were laying out even something like an office with some various furniture. There's quite a few structural items as well for different elements of ladders and beams and all sorts of items here that are available to us. Now, there's two different types of assets. You'll notice a lot of these are local assets. Okay, so these ones here, we can just simply go and bring in and place, for instance, a set of stairs. So if I was to double click here, I could place a stairway wherever I wanted to into my system. And this is one of the very powerful things about the Autodesk system, in the sense of it being a flexible system with quite a large library, as you can see here, of items that we can drag and drop and just dump into our system. So just to give you a bit of a rundown on how some of these work, under your conveyor systems, we've got all sorts of different types of conveyors. Again, I've downloaded some of these into my system. Some of these will be, when you hover on these, you'll see that they are either local assets that have already been downloaded, or they can be downloaded just directly. So these ones that I haven't downloaded as yet are registered as cloud assets. If I double click on this or right click and download, it will actually save it to my local machine for future use, and we can utilize that particular item whenever we want to use that air curved conveyor in future. But just to have a look at, so I've just brought in some fairly simple ones here for belt conveyors. So if I was just to go in and there's a horizontal curve, we've got a range of different systems. But again, if I was to simply double click on this, it will place in, or allow me to place anywhere around my factory, a curved belt conveyor. Okay. Now, by default, I can move this to whichever location I would like and attach it to other items, etc., etc. We can position it according to whatever our requirement is. But if we were to then go in and bring in a straight belt conveyor, and one of the very, very powerful things about this is, as you can see, when I bring this conveyor in, Inventor sees that I've already got an item from a similar family and says, well, would you like to connect these together? So if I was to click here and place these belt conveyors, we can just simply go and bring them in and attach as many of these as we would like. Okay, so a bit like using the content center. For those of you that are familiar with Inventor already, you're probably familiar with how that works. So all sorts of different items here that we can just go and place in. And as you can see, it's quite quick and easy to create a fairly complex system. We've got things like spiral conveyors, things like this. And again, because of the way these assets all work, we can just place these in at whatever interval we would like and work through with our system. So we've got quite a powerful bunch of tools for working with all of these different assets that are predefined effectively inside the asset library. Now, by no means is this the only system you can have. We can obviously go and add our own assets to this library, but like I said, it is quite an exhaustive library that we can just sort of go and bring in or download. As you can see, most of these will be cloud-based assets because obviously they take up quite an amount of space when we utilize them. But yeah, basically from there, we can obviously go and build up our work cells. We could go down here and bring in some things like, robot arms or robot cells down here. So I just quickly downloaded one of these earlier. So this one was a cloud asset, but if I double click on this and now I can place a robot cell wherever I would like to place that. So this is from the ASEA company. Some of you might be familiar with their equipment. And we can just place that in as another part or element to our factory layout. Now, obviously, there's quite a massive assortment of items in here. We've got machinery and equipment and all sorts of different tools. We've got a whole bunch of CNC machines. And again, I just grabbed one of these earlier. So I'll place this Kuma LB3000 machine into my factory layout. So again, just a matter of double click and then place it wherever you would like. And again, if that part of your system becomes part of the design, we can obviously move that to a new location or place that however we would like. So it's a very powerful library of equipment available here, of other data and items with regard to that. Now, there's a whole bunch of other tools as well with regard to using some of these other items for process analysis and for, like we said before, looking for bottlenecks and other items within your factory layout and coming up with all sorts of different elements and looking at how they all function, if you like, or how they all behave in relation to other items. So there's quite a lot of other tools. And again, we don't have time today to go into these in huge detail, but effectively we can utilize, like we said before, a DWG underlay by bringing this data in from a previous system, just like you would effectively with utilizing AutoCAD data as we frequently do within Inventor. We've got the option here to include point clouds. As we mentioned before, we can bring in point clouds from Recap and from an existing part of a facility that might be available, and we can work with that. Now, like I said, once we've generated our factory layout and how we'd like to sort of see all that behave and all those different areas with regard to working with these particular tools, we can then go off and do a range of other elements and analysis on the actual workflow. And for those of you that have done any of this before, we often talk about spaghetti mapping and elements like that inside of a lean manufacturing facility, and being able to do some of those analysis tools based on that is very powerful. Now, obviously, we can create our own assets as well. So we can create, if you've got a specific piece of equipment, maybe some sort of an inspection area that has testing equipment or whatever, we can certainly insert that from a standard Inventor model. So we can import that into our own library, just like we could do with the standard Inventor Content Center type system. So we've got quite a bunch of different tools that are available to us there. Yeah, working through the process is not unlike what you would normally do with your Inventor software, apart from the fact that we've got a whole bunch of other tools for working with different types of analysis then. So when we look at the process analysis tools, we've got a bunch of options for working with that. And as you can see, we've got a new release of this coming up in the 2023 software. So there'll be some really nice updates to that particular functionality. But under here, we've got, yeah, quite an assortment of different options that run through the process and how we can see each of those functions working in that sense. So the Autodesk process analysis tools are very, very powerful. They give us, like I said, the option to look at bottlenecks and look at different areas of our software, of our plant and process design to basically ascertain how that particular functionality works. So we've got quite a lot of tools included here. Like I said, this particular demo is only going to be a fairly brief one. So, but look, I guess the main thing to understand here is the asset browser, where we can insert a whole assortment of different assets from either cloud libraries, or if we've used them previously, or even our own library, if we'd like to set up a user-based cloud or a user cloud asset library, we can certainly do that as well. So quite an assortment of tools there that, yeah, I think you'll find really beneficial, guys, if you dig a bit further into these particular tools. As I said, today's demonstration was only intended to be a fairly brief look at how we can utilize some of these and how we can work with the different tools in relation to working with the factory design utilities. So quite a yeah, quite a lot of options for working with that. And yeah, like I said, that's really what I had hoped to sort of talk about today, was just to briefly give you a rundown on how we work with this. Obviously, as you can see, all these items are included in the standard browser type system. So if you're already using Inventor, the interface is very logical and very similar to the processes that you'd currently be using inside of your Inventor software. So lots of different options there. And yeah, as I mentioned, yeah, we've got quite a bunch of different tools for working with our factory design utility. So as I mentioned, I guess the whole concept of this is that if you're already working with AutoCAD, or even if you've got a license of Inventor, moving up to the product design manufacturing collection will certainly give you the benefit and the added options of working with the factory design utilities and a bunch of other simulation tools that you might, I'm sure you'll find valuable within your current situation. So the concept of working with AutoCAD and Inventor, if you do have existing license of those, it'd be worth talking with one of our business development managers on how you can move forward with that, and certainly link in with some of the other tools that are available within the product design manufacturing collection, including, as we've said, the factory design utilities that I think if you're involved in factory layouts, or if your business is already working in that space, I'd highly recommend you explore this one further. It is a very, very powerful tool that allows us not only to obviously design a factory, but yes, certainly add extra details within our factory, and then do a whole bunch of analysis on that. And like I said, linking up with the likes of an AutoCAD file or a recap file if you've got existing data, or point cloud scan data, and then linking that as well to Navisworks. We've got many, many solutions and functionalities then that allow us to progress into a very agile and lean type system that will help us to work forwards with our systems. So I guess the main benefits, as we've talked through here, we've got yeah, the option to analyze and work through a system of or a bunch of processes that allow us to create accurate estimates and and bid on projects knowing full well the outcome before we even place any equipment inside of the building. So I guess the real benefit of that is having that insight to allow us to come to that conclusion before we even start working with those tools. So yeah, quite a bunch of different options. Obviously, we're able to design more productively. We can build our models faster. We can, fewer errors. We've obviously setting up work cells and working with different product movement type systems and analyzing our product workflows and processes throughout that production facility can be greatly enhanced by working through with the factory design utility. So that was sort of the fundamentals of what we wanted to talk about today. I hope that that brief introduction to the Autodesk factory design utility is helpful and perhaps inspires you to look further. As I said, A2K will more than happily set up demonstrations for this sort of equipment and working with the factory design utilities moving forward. So hopefully what we've had to talk about today is beneficial to you in your particular situation. And we'll basically wrap it up from there. I will stay online for a while. I do see there's a couple of questions popping up here. So, so thanks for your attention. I hope you've enjoyed today's discussion and hope you find that valuable, but please do get in touch with us. We're always happy to talk further and discuss different elements of the Autodesk solutions and how they can perhaps help with that. So we'll have an option for questions and answers. So please feel free to either pop questions in the chat window there. Also, if you'd like to know anything about any of our other events, please go to the link on your screen, a2ktechnologies.com.au/events. We obviously run these types of webinars on a whole range of Autodesk software solutions and many other software solutions as well. So feel free to have a look at that. And if you'd like to contact us further, please feel free to email us at info@a2ktechnologies.com.au, and we'll certainly be more than happy to answer your questions and help out with any future software requirements within any area of engineering. Obviously, we have a large presence in the AEC space as well, and we've got technicians in the civil space and electrical space and a range of other areas that we work in. As I said, my background is in the mechanical space, so I'm particularly focused on that aspect of the software and train the likes of Inventor and AutoCAD and Fusion and the mechanical products, but we do have many other technicians in our organization, highly skilled people that are available to help with any of your software needs and training requirements in regard to moving forwards. So thanks for your attention. It's been great to have you along today and appreciate your attention over the last 40 minutes or so. But yeah, like I said, I'll stay online for a little while and answer any questions. Thanks, David, for your question there about how to modify the floor to match the physical factory floor. Yes, we can do that in the software. That absolutely is an option. The process for working through that is that we can, the boundary, the outline on the actual factory layout there can be modified according to the requirements or the footprint of factory. Absolutely, that is definitely an option. So yeah, feel free to ask any other questions. But yeah, it's been great to have you along today. Thank you for attending, and yeah, I'll stay online for another few minutes just to answer any other questions. But thanks again for joining us. Have a great day ahead.